this is a really, really, really dire picture of what's coming to people that store up their treasure on earth. Like, this is a serious matter. If you have an issue with needing more and more and more stuff as a believer, you got to camp out here. Just can't just get your metaphorical tent, and not a bougie tent, obviously, because of this passage.
Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Down to Earth Theology Matters. I'm Bryan Threlkeld, your host, and I'm joined today by Dr. Jason Peters. He's the Greek professor at the Gray School of Theology. Jason, thanks again for being here.
Yeah,
and we are taking a journey through the book of James, and man, we've arrived at James chapter 5, the final chapter. So we're excited. If you've missed the previous episodes, be sure to go back and catch up, or you're going to be missing out on a whole bunch of context here. But I'm going to begin in James 5:1, and we're going to make our way through verse 6. So here we go. This is the Christian Standard Bible, James 5:1. Come now, you rich people, weep and wail over the miseries that are coming on you. Your wealth has rotted and your clothes are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver are corroded, and their corrosion will be a witness against you and will eat your flesh like fire. You have stored up treasures in the last days. Look, the pay that you withheld from the workers who mowed your fields cries out, and the outcry of the harvesters has reached the ears of the Lord of armies. You have lived luxuriously on the earth and have indulged yourselves. You have fattened your hearts in a day of slaughter. You have condemned, you have murdered the righteous, who does not resist you. Whew, again, some powerful language here, Jason. So give us some feedback.
Yeah, I mean, again, if we scrolled back or flipped back with our paper Bibles,
we used to flip pages.
That's right. We'd see, age noon, come now or go now, like just an attention getter. He uses it in 4:13. He uses it again here, just as a way to segment, and move the discourse forward. So instead of saying those saying, now he's addressing with that same kind of construction, those rich, or the rich ones. So come now, the rich ones, you should weep. And why should they weep, or how should they weep? Wailing, crying aloud upon all the miseries. That's a pretty general statement, like what kind of miseries?
Right.
So we don't quite know what the miseries are, but they're coming upon you. So right off the bat, we know this is probably has some kind of, I'm going to use a big word here, you can unpack it for everybody, eschatological tones to it. Like, So Bryan, when you hear that word, what are you thinking of?
Eschatology, end times, like we're pushing towards future. And I think in particular here, it would be a future judgment in context here. So when we think about eschatology, that's the study of end times, future things. So here, we're talking about some kind of, it's coming on you in the future. There's going to be some kind of payback, some kind of judgment here.
Yeah, and the reason we don't think that's like near is because of the rest of the context. So verse 2, your wealth, your riches have rotted, and it's the root is where we're going to see this. We're going to see this same root with like something that's been destroyed by bugs or insects or moths or whatever it may be. You actually see the root in Matthew 6, and then that 19 and following passage with moth-eaten. Also, we're going to see it here. Your wealth has rotted, and your garments have become eaten by moths. Right? Why? Because you've stored so many of them up. You've forgotten about them. You don't ever wear them. They're sitting in a closet, and now they're just throwaways. And then even more than that, also, your gold and your silver have become corroded. So they're sitting there so long without being used that they start to wear. I mean, it's this picture of you've stored up. Think about what Jesus says. You've stored up your treasure on earth for so long, it's literally being destroyed. It's just falling apart. And so you're storing up of treasure. You're storing up of clothes, of materials that could help other people. Think about the James 2 person who has no food, has no clothes, right? Think about the poor person. Earlier in that's James 2:14, earlier in that James passage, think about what true religion is, to care for people. You've done none of that. You've been all about yourself. You've stored all this stuff up for yourself. And now the corrosion of these things actually becomes a witness against you. And then he says this line, and will eat your flesh as fire. So again, is anybody really quite sure what he means? No, we're not, right? Because we're, whatever you think the subject of that eat verb is, people disagree about it. We're not really sure, but what we do know is that's not a good situation.
No. And let me just, for context sake, we talked here about Matthew 6. Let me read the words of Jesus in Matthew 6 so people will know. This is Matthew 6:19-21. Jesus says, "Don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven where neither moth nor rust destroys, and where thieves don't break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." And there's no way that James doesn't have the words of Jesus here in his mind. I mean, at least from my perspective.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, it's so in parallel with what he's saying with regards to the moths are going to destroy the clothing, the rust is going to destroy the gold and silver, and so this is what James is tying back into the very words of Jesus. So.
Yeah, in the Gospel of Matthew, which, for all you late dating scholars out there, in the Gospel of Matthew, we have good reason to believe that Matthew was written very, very, very early, and that James actually was using Matthean. At least some of that document.
Yeah, because James was written early.
Yes.
So therefore, Matthew would have been written early. And if, again, coming back to contextually, we've talked a lot about this throughout the series, but you're going to see James borrow from Matthew and Proverbs a whole lot. As well as some of the prophets of the Old Testament.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So just as we continue to work through here, So what's the issue? Well, it says that you have stored up treasure in the last days. Okay, so now we get
eschatological
now we
reference.
get some of the. So this has been your life, and then you have this little attention getter. Do. It's kind of like pay attention, right? Like hey
now, hey.
That's right. That's how we use it in English.
Look at me.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. The pay that you withheld from the workers who mowed your fields is crying out. So that's the testimony. That's the witness. Your greed, your extortion, whatever you've done to not pay the people that you owe the money to and cause them to suffer, well, now that's used in this courtroom scene of judgment against you. In fact, the outcry of the harvester, so he just repeats it in a different way, has reached the ears of the Lord of Sabaoth, heavenly armies, which is oftentimes when judgment is coming, this particular name, or really, it's a functional name of God, of Yahweh, is used. So this is not a good scene.
No, the Lord is coming with his armies to...
Yeah, this makes me want to grab the money and just start throwing it behind me out of my pockets as I'm running down the street.
Wow.
Right?
Powerful language. James does that a lot.
Yeah, and so he keeps going. You have lived luxuriously, so these are actions, obviously, because he's looking at this now from an eschatological perspective. You've lived luxurious on the earth. You have indulged yourselves. You have fattened your hearts in a day of slaughter. What does that mean? You have prepared yourselves for coming judgment based on how you have lived. Every bit of greed has caused you to get fatter, and just like a big old fat animal that you're going to slaughter to eat. That's the picture. I mean, again, this is a really, really, really dire picture of what's coming to people that store up their treasure on earth. Like, this is a serious matter. And so he, even in verse 6, you have harmed or you have contemned. It's really harmed. It's against, and the word for, to do justice. Katadiadzo. And so it's a really strong word. And you have murdered. He used murder language against the righteous, and they're not even resisting you. They're not fighting against you. They're taking what you're doing, and they're suffering. And so, if you have an issue with needing more and more and more stuff as a believer, you got to camp out here. Just get your metaphorical tent, and not a bougie tent, obviously, because of this passage, and camp out and really think about, God has given me this wealth. What do I do with it? It doesn't mean God wants you to become poor, right? He doesn't want rich people to give so much money away, they become poor, and then the poor person becomes a rich person, they give it back, and then, he doesn't want this seesaw.
Yeah, money is not the root of all evil, the love of
That's
money.
right.
And so if you look at passages, I think about 1 Timothy 6:10, some other verses where it's clear that we are to be stewards. Wealthy people are commanded to be good stewards of the wealth that they've been entrusted with. And even in the passages we read, like 1 Timothy 6, you see that God gives funds, wealth to people, and there's a sense in which some of that can be used for our enjoyment, but it's the abuse of that. And especially here, I think what you see is extortion. Like, you see injustice, you see that people are owed money and they're not being paid. And so this is certainly a gross misuse of funds, and in fact impacting other people in a negative way. Talk to me a little bit, the fattened your hearts. It sounds like, hey, you need some cholesterol medication, something like that, because in some versions, that's right. And so we'll go into a quick little prescription commercial here now. A lot of texts will just say fatten yourselves, but the Greek term there, cardia, right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
And so that's cardiac, deals with the heart. Why do you think he got very specific there with fatten your hearts, as opposed to just some English translations, fatten yourselves?
Yeah. So in the book of Amos, right, we know that James loves the prophets. Okay, we know he is cut from that cloth. In the book of Amos, it parallels this passage, or this passage parallels the things that Amos says about some of the people that are coming under judgment, because of how they're living. So let me read, this is from the ESV. Woe to those who lie on beds of ivory, stretch themselves out on their couches, and eat lambs of the flock and calves from the midst of the stall, who sing idle songs to the harp, to the sound of the harp, like David, invent for themselves instruments of music, who drink wine in bowls, anoint themselves the finest oils, but are not grieved over the ruin of Joseph. And another place in Amos, I think he calls some of these people like cows of Bashan, this place where cows would graze and they would just become big, fat cows. What they would take in would just, and slaughter is coming. And so I think the point that he's making here, as he's alluding to that, is you've lived in this way while other people are starving, are hurting. You've lived this lifestyle that's been all about you, that's caused all these other people to suffer unjustly. And now, in the same way that you enjoyed these big, fat animals to eat, well, this is the testimony that you fattened up your heart with all of this, and now the slaughter's coming.
Yeah, I think it's the heart speaks of the very essence of your being, the core of who you are. So what he's saying here is at the core of who you are. That's what's become fattened up. It's become all about you, and that's a dangerous place to be in a day of slaughter, particularly.
Yeah, not to stretch the metaphor that he's using too far, but if
Right.
we think cows don't start fattened and giant, they work their way towards that, right? It's a process over time. Just like most people, unless you win the lottery, which I play every week and I hope no, this happens over time. Right? This happens over time. That's why he's calling people out. He's calling the wealthy out. Like there's time for them, right? So a lot of this language is cage rattling because there's time. These aren't fixed situations. And so if you're a rich person in this situation, sitting, listening to this sermon, whether you're a believer or you're an unbeliever, but you're gonna be a Jewish person, so you're gonna be trusting Yahweh, most likely, or have some relationship to him. Like this is meant to shake you to your core. This should shake all of us to our core, because the language is just that. It's that heavy and it's that difficult. Like I love stuff, Brian. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'm on a gun kick now, and I could buy, if I had the money, I would buy all kinds of guns, and I would spend so much money. But meanwhile, do I look at my church and the people in my church that actually need stuff? And do I go, okay, would I rather have a new AR-15 or would I rather help this person with their house payment?
Yeah.
And I think that's the rub with James.
Another thing that just struck me here as we were talking, why he used that term heart, is if he was hearkening back to Matthew 6:19-21, at the very end, Jesus says, for where your heart is, there your treasure will be also. So he's talking about, where is your heart in this equation? So again, I think James has the language of Jesus here with the moths, with the rust, with the heart. Over and over again, he keeps coming back to that. What a fabulous passage. This is a powerful verse. Like you said, it's a good one to come back to time and time again, because we live in a relatively affluent culture.
Yeah, for
Even
sure.
those of us who may not have as much as others, we are extremely affluent here in the United States of America today.
Yeah, I'll leave at least, I'd love to leave everybody with the first Bible verse I ever memorized. Right?
Brilliant.
It's Jesus wept. No, not really.
Well, it was nice and short. That's good.
Yeah, it's Jeremiah 9:23 and 24, and it says, the wise person should not boast in his wisdom, the strong should not boast in his strength, the wealthy should not boast in his wealth, but the one who boasts should boast in this, that he understands and knows me, that I am Yahweh, I am the Lord, showing faithful love, justice, and righteousness on the earth, for I delight in these things. And then the CSB says, this is the Lord's declaration. And I often think about this Jeremiah passage when we're working through, as we've been working through James, because there's a lot of boasting language. Like where are you boasting? What are you confident? What are you so confident in you can speak about it? Is it your own wealth here? Is it your own wisdom? Is it your own strength? Or is it that we know the Lord? And so I think that's a real paradigm shift, right?
Yeah.
It's a real paradigm shift, which could help anybody here that might be struggling with materialism or greed or these things that we think are going to make us happy or fill in that gap in our lives or whatever. It's not. I can just tell you, it's not. I'm not rich, but I know some guys, and it's not. Knowing Christ, that's the key. That's the thing that makes all these other things just kind of dissipate.
Yeah, Paul talked about that over and over again. I consider everything worthless compared to knowing Jesus.
That's right.
Let him who boasts boast in the Lord.
That's right.
You just drop the mic right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We're gonna drop the mic right there. Think
do
about this. What a fantastic passage, and we're gonna pick it up with James 5 and verse 7 next week. Y'all have a great one, and we'll see you next time on Down to Earth Theology Matters.